Joining me now, John Kirby, the National Security Council's Coordinator for Strategic Communications. Welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Good to be with you, Mike. Thanks.
So let's start with the Russian jet and the American drone. The Russians have suggested maybe it was accidental, but then the defense minister is giving out awards to the fighter pilots. What's the latest in your view?
We don't know what the intention was of the Russian pilot. We can't really get inside in between his ears to figure out if he meant to hit that drone or not. It was absolutely unprofessional and way too aggressive flying on his part. Clearly, he did clip the propeller of that drone, forcing us to bring it down into the Black Sea. So aggressive, unsafe, unprofessional, reckless, quite frankly.
Okay, so there are reports this week that Chinese companies have shipped assault rifles, body armor, and drone parts to Russia. This on the heels of China, Iran, and Russia holding joint naval exercises. Chinese President Xi is traveling to Moscow tomorrow. It feels an awful lot like Russia and China are trying to chip away at America's superpower status.
There's no question that both China and Russia, and this is right out in the national security strategy, are two countries that are chafing against this international rules-based order that the United States and so many of our allies and partners have built up since the end of World War II. They don't like that. They'd like to rewrite the rules of the game globally, and they have been increasing their cooperation and their relationship, certainly of late. China has not condemned Putin's invasion of Ukraine. They are still buying Russian oil and energy resources, and they have at least given tacit approval because they've taken the Russian claim that this is somehow an existential threat against Russia, that the war is the West's fault. Mm-hmm. So we'll watch what comes out of this meeting here Monday through Wednesday of President Xi to Moscow, the state visit, if you will. But what we have said before, and we'll say it again today, that if coming out of this meeting, there's some sort of call for a ceasefire. Well, that's just going to be unacceptable because all that's going to do, Mike, is ratify Russia's conquest to date. All that's going to do is give Mr. Putin more time to refit, retrain, reman, and try to plan for renewed offensives at a time of his choosing. We hope, and we've said this before, that President Xi will call and talk to President Zelensky because we believe the Chinese need to get the Ukrainian perspective here.
Mm-hmm. President Xi, there's been a tease of a phone call between President Biden and President Xi for weeks, but you've said just recently that there's not a phone call in the works. For diplomacy to work after the U.S. shot down the spy balloon and try to get an idea of what China is thinking at this point, don't they need to talk?
The president wants to keep the lines of communications open with China, and you've heard him say it himself just in recent days that he does want to set up another chance to talk to President Xi, and I suspect that will happen. It'll happen in due course when it's the appropriate time to do so. It's important, particularly when the tensions are so high between our two countries, that these two leaders keep that line of communication open, and the president's committed to doing that.
China is increasing its defense spending by more than 7%. President Biden's budget would increase defense spending here by 3.2%. Is there a concern about the U.S. falling behind?
No, the United States is going to maintain the most preeminent military capability around the world. We're dedicated to that. You can look at the budget that we just laid out there and see how much of that budget is dedicated to the kinds of threats and challenges that our own national defense strategy says we need. Mm-hmm. And that includes the kinds of challenges that are posed in the Indo-Pacific, from China, certainly, but also from North Korea, and quite frankly, from Russia. So it's all there in the budget. It's very comprehensive. We obviously are going to look forward to communicating this budget on Capitol Hill in coming days and weeks. But we believe that this defense budget will do a lot to help keep America's military capability the most prominent in the world.
Former President Trump teased yesterday that he expects to be arrested and charged criminally at DOJ. He's calling for, quote, protest, take our nation back. The last time he called for that kind of protest was January 6th, 2021, which we have branded a national security incident. Do you have concerns about national security this week?
We're always monitoring the situation here as best we can, and we obviously don't want to see any activity grow violent, certainly nothing to the extent that we saw on January 6th. But we're watching this. We'll watch it, of course, closely. We want to see if there are protests of any kind about any issue, quite frankly, let alone this, that they're peaceful.
So you're not worried about security this week? There are no expressed threats at this point that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of any indications that we're preparing for that kind of activity specifically with respect to those comments. But obviously, we work hand in glove with local and state authorities all around the country, and we'll continue to watch this as best we can.
John Kirby, many thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.